The White House revealing President Trump has been diagnosed with a condition called chronic venous insufficiency. The news comes after the president and some observers noticed swelling of his ankles and some bruising on his right hand he appeared to try to cover up with makeup. I want to bring in CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta. So, Sanjay, what is this condition?
So chronic venous insufficiency, a relatively common condition, something that gets more common as you get older, involves a problem with the veins. That's the venous part of that. So arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins take blood back to the heart. If the veins aren't working properly, if they're not doing their job, blood can sort of start to pool. And that was probably causing that swelling that you just showed in that picture there. Again, a fairly common condition. I will say a couple of interesting things. He had a physical exam back in April, and so 3 months ago or so, and they made no mention of it at that time. So either it wasn't there or they didn't talk about it. It does appear that this problem has either started or worsened over the last 3 months. And I think that's what sort of prompted the exam that he had, Anderson. They looked at his blood to see if there's any problems that made him more likely to develop blood clots. They said it was fine. They looked for blood clots themselves because sometimes blood clots can block the veins. That does not seem to be the case. They looked at his heart to see that his heart was functioning properly, pumping blood adequately, because if it's not doing that, that can also lead to swelling. And that's, I think, ultimately how they landed on this diagnosis of chronic venous insufficiency.
What kind of treatment is the president looking at?
Yeah, so, if there's no blood clots or anything like that to treat medically, then you're really thinking of sort of mechanical things. So if you imagine swelling that's occurring in the legs, the lower legs, typically getting worse because of gravity, just raising the legs at night, for example. So sleeping on a couple of pillows underneath your ankles and your feet, that can be helpful. Wearing things like compression socks, that can be helpful. Being as active as possible. When people are active, walking and moving, that tends to create more circulation of the blood through the veins as well. So sometimes the problem just gets worse and it needs to be treated in other ways, but for the beginning stages at least, that's the best sort of approach.
The memo from the White House also goes into the cause of the bruising on the president's hand that he's been trying to cover.
Yeah, right. He's been trying to cover up. We've seen the makeup on his hand, covering up these bruises. And, we've noticed this for some time. First of all, Anderson, I think going back to February, even with a visit that he had at that point, we saw some pictures of bruising on his hand. The White House doctors commented on this, and they said this is irritation and sort of minor trauma to the hand. They say probably as a result of lots of handshaking, on top of the fact that he's taking aspirin as an anticoagulant. So, Anderson, I'll tell you that does track. People who are on blood thinners or some sort of blood thinner like this and have repeated sort of trauma to the hand or just even handshakes can cause that sort of bruising. So that's what they concluded after examining him, and it sort of fits.
All right, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
I bet the part about insufficient, I bet that really bothers Trump. I mean, why couldn't it be sufficient or something sounding a little more positive? He's probably going to argue that part. But it's unfortunate that he's getting older. He's running into medical issues. And he shouldn't be president at that age. We shouldn't have presidents this old. Biden was too old. I mean, a president should be sharp. A president should have some more skin in the game, meaning more years left on this planet. And we don't know the mental state of some of these people as they get older, Trump included. We knew Biden was declining. Trump could be declining too. His decline might be coming out in a different way. He might still have the ability to speak fluently and all of that stuff, but they're just getting older, all of our politicians. And they put us in peril because not only do we have to pray that they do a good job for us, but we also have to pray that they wake up the next morning, that they make it through the night. It's like, damn, are we that desperate as a country that we have to lean that heavily on the generation above us? And in some folks' cases, 2 or 3 generations above them. And they got to deal with that. We broke away from our parents. We didn't play that shit. We wanted to live independently. We wanted an apartment. We wanted our own shit. We'd steal their car to get away. We didn't do nothing to come back home. And when we did, it's because you hit the bottom. And then you come home, eat some pancakes, regenerate, get back out there. And I just think that we need to fight these older people harder and not strategically or harming them or doing nothing to them, but we need to take the stance of the adult and they being adults as well, but in decline. And they have to accept that. And unless they're saying even declining, they're better than us, even physically and mentally declining. It's not all about the mental decline. Trump could be fooling us all, though, with his actions. But I look at people, he always had a coolness about him when he was young. He never seemed upset. He said mean shit in a calm ass way. And I always used to be like, damn, nothing don't really get him off kilter or too upset. But he would just say the meanest shit to people in a calm tone, which is rude and shit. But he never seemed to be upset or mean. He just would just matter-of-factly say fucked up shit to people, but not come off as angry or mean. Now, anybody who's known, Trump in his spotlight, the late 70s, mid 80s, up to current, he's mean now. He gets pissed. He huffs and puffs and just fucking don't know how to address some questions. The president of the United States, you cannot be that bored that you can't gather yourself and try to respond differently. That could be old age. That could be his age. It could be his health. Shit, maybe he don't feel good. But we keep electing these old people in. And we not that we should go against them, and not that they can't be our mentors, not that they can't remind us of some of the mistakes they made and let us know what to do to make this country better. And because of some of them, instead of doubling down on their mistakes and expecting us to move forward with that bullshit, and we know better, but we still do it. We got to go our own path. We got to go our own direction, or we're going to be no better than the generation before us. And we should be better, but we're afraid to basically turn the page, let it be, done. And I truly mean that in my heart. But it's unfortunate when you run across a young group of politicians that aren't really, worth putting your eggs in their basket. So as healthy as they are, and they might live to be 100 too, but shit, what do we really got to look forward to in the Democratic Party? And we don't have nothing currently going on. And Trump is declining. And his weight is going to be a problem. He's a big dude. We are in trouble as a country because there's a lot of old people in very key positions. Look at that Supreme Court. I remember when Clarence Thomas had a little short afro and it was black. I think he had a couple of strands of gray hair. He's like in his mid-40s. He's been there a long time. They just don't want to let go. What is going on that we don't know about? And if we don't know about it, let's find out about it. Let's vote them out. Let's start primarying these old people. Shit, I'd rather deal with the young Republicans than the old Republicans. We got a better chance with them. They cannot be the same people. I'd rather deal with the young Democrats than the old Democrats. Who want to deal with them old-ass Democrats? The ones that remember a time when they did fucked up shit. They did it themselves. We still have people in office who are currently responsible for harming other races of people. That's how old they are. We get the new group in on either side. That'd be nice. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be done through health issues and against their will. That's sad. But let's look at the second opinion on Trump's chronic venous insufficiency.
My medical source tonight is Dr. Megan Ranney, emergency physician and dean at the Yale School of Public Health. And it's so great to have you here, doctor, because one, I think a lot of people want to know, what is chronic venous insufficiency? And two, what does this diagnosis mean for the president?
Thanks, Caitlin. It's a joy to join you. So chronic venous insufficiency is something that's actually pretty common. Somewhere between 10 and 30% of elderly adults have it. Basically, what it means is that your veins have valves that keep the blood from backflowing. In chronic venous insufficiency, those valves stop working, and so the blood pools down in your lower legs, causing swelling. There are various levels of it. In the most mild level, it can cause varicose veins or a little bit of swelling. As it gets worse, it can cause skin changes, infections, and even chronic venous ulcers. We see it a lot in the emergency department and in primary care practices. It's not in and of itself concerning, although you, of course, want to make sure that those symptoms of swelling aren't caused by more dangerous conditions. And you want to treat it so that you don't end up with those negative effects like infection or ulcers, which can make you not able to walk and then cause all kinds of other downstream health problems.
Well, and when you look at the president's last annual physical that was done at Walter Reed 3 months ago, and on April 11th of this year, we heard from the president's physician after that. And one part that he praised actually was Trump's cardiac health. He wrote that his blood flow to his extremities is unimpaired. Does that mean that something has changed in those 3 months?
Or did he lie to us?
It most likely means that something has changed. Now, when he says the blood flow to his legs is unimpaired, I interpret that to mean both arterial and venous circulation. Maybe he was just referring to arterial circulation or the functioning of the heart, the pumping that creates a pulse and gets blood flowing to your legs. Maybe he wasn't referring to venous outflow or bringing that blood back to your heart. Is it also possible that we weren't fully transparent at that point? Maybe. I think this is one of the things about social media. We see pictures, just like we did with that Coldplay concert yesterday. Things don't go unnoticed. I'm glad that the president's health was taken seriously and that they investigated for more serious causes, which sound like they were ruled out.
President Trump has always proclaimed himself to be a near perfect physical specimen.
Dr. Ronnie Jackson, he's a doctor. He's an admiral. Where's Ronnie Jackson? He said, I'm the healthiest man ever to be president by far. Said if I wouldn't eat junk food, I'd live 200 years. Where is he? He's the greatest. We love you, Ronnie.
I don't think Democrats get his sense of humor. They hear everything that motherfuckers they get mad. They're like, what do you mean 200 years? Nobody told him that. Of course not. But I see how dislike Trump is, because I know how dislike Biden is to some people, to a particular segment. And I really don't dislike presidents. I dislike what they do. And it took me a while to get to that. It ain't like I was in high school thinking that way, because I was, I considered myself a Democrat, a strong Democrat. And vote blue no kind of who, or no matter who, or who the fuck who, or any kind. Just as long as their ass was blue, I voted for them. And I did that for most of my life. And I did that. And as I turned out to look back and see how ignorant that was, to never, ever look at another side, even in protest, even the side that, like the Green Party, you know, who got no opportunity of winning, or picking up somebody who's running from a party that ain't even on the ballot in more than 3 states, but they're on the ballot in your state. So fuck it, you vote for them. If they do really, really well in those 3 states, at least people could say, this could catch on. This got potential. But we are not willing to change. And I don't know why. I know the older people don't want the change. They want to go home and retire and know that folks who are identical to them take over, and then they can relax and close their eyes. But as long as they know this country is heading in a direction that they didn't set or they didn't anticipate, it's going to bother them, and they're never going to let go. And we must democratically make them let go. Their health is a priority. I took care of elder parents. I know what it's like to see them as their mental and physical decline happens right in front of your eyes. And it would be ignorant of me not to see that my parents were younger than Trump is. And I'm like, he can't be in that kind of condition. He would be running the Boston Marathon. He's not in the tip-top health that he says he is, and neither was Biden. I guess they all fucking lie. Reagan was, after the fact, they admitted, and they weren't as candid with the Reagan shit as they are being with Biden. They're being more candid with Biden. When Reagan got out of office, he was all messed up mentally, and we found out, the last part, and nobody will be specific, but the last part of his presidency, someone else was pretty much pulling the strings. Yeah, after the fact, what you gonna do? You can't impeach a man who's mentally declining, and especially when it's Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that. It's not a good thing to see, but it allows us to see what these parties are capable of, both of them, when it comes to their coveted president, their leader being incapable or declining in his capabilities of running the country. And Trump did a good thing in bringing in J.D. Vance as far as his youth and his age, and hopefully he'll go in a different direction than the Republicans before him. But if he doesn't, we can't sit here and expect J.D. Vance to make our future bright. We got to do it ourselves. And the only way is to get people who really represent us to represent us, to get out there and make black leaders and black congressional caucus members continue to, at every meeting, to close those congressional hearings and those congressional conferences. And every time you have a group of our lawmakers in a body, to remind them that we are descendants of slaves and we haven't been set straight yet, and then let them close the meeting. But come up with a nice, clever way of saying that and incorporating it like a prayer at the end of every damn meeting. And at least they know you're not playing. But our black politicians would never do that because it would be frowned upon by both sides. And that lets you know they ain't on our side. And we need to not be on their old ass sides because they all getting too old. Like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.